It's taken me like 4 years to realize I never know how to intro a video, so I'm just not gonna do it. All I'm saying is today we're talking about running back rankings. Nobody wants to hear me go 1 through 24 and tell you why I have CMC 1 and like Ronald Jones 24. I'm gonna go through a few guys, probably 4, that are either above or below consensus rankings or BDGE's ADP. In my opinion, give you some reasons as to why. And if you want my rankings for whatever reason, I'm sure I could like drop a link somewhere. I'm not too technologically savvy, but if you are, just let me know how to do it and I'll do it. But at the end of the day, like it's really not going to help you too much. Without further ado, let's hit the intro and get straight to it. All right, the first guy I'm going to talk about is somebody that continuously stuffed me in a locker for about 2 years. It's Derrick Henry, running back of the Tennessee Titans. I get it. In Dynasty, you want young guys because they don't age, but then they do age and they become Derrick Henry. But then the years between where they are right now and becoming Derrick Henry, they're not nearly as good as Derrick Henry is going to be. That's kind of the reason why I have him where I have him, running back 6. I get it. It's extremely high. The guy's basically 35 years old. He already ordered his tombstone. He's got one foot in the grave. But the other foot's running for like 2,020 yards every single season. And I think that's going to continue. Their offensive line, they're getting Taylor Lewan back. They just brought in Julio Jones, which I get it. Last year, they had Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis, who are both good blockers. But defenses don't really respect those two guys like they respect Julio Jones. With Julio running deep, with A.J. Brown on the outside as well, they're going to have to respect the passing game, not just the run game. They probably won't run as much play action as they did under Arthur Smith, but I don't even think that's necessary because defenses are going to have a little more cushion. They're going to have to respect all the weapons they have on the outside, which will only alleviate pressure for Derrick Henry. And I get it, right? Saying that better receivers is going to make a running back better can work both ways because, oh, if your receivers are better, you're going to throw more. Then again, this offense is still going to run through Derrick Henry. And at the same time, like a lot of goal line carries last year or goal line opportunities were taken away via play action, right? A little play action boot, throw it to fucking Jonnu Smith. He like tumbles into the end zone because he's athletic, but he's not athletic. Whatever the case may be, he could have had like 25 touchdowns last year. I know Animal would give you an earful about it, and he should have went like 13 and 1 instead of 113. I digress. I got him super high just because I think, guys who are a little bit lower, like a DeAndre Swift or a Joe Mixon or even a J.K. Dobbins, I think the next 2 years that Derrick Henry is going to give you is going to far outweigh the upside and the longevity or expected longevity of these other options. But I get it, right? If you are a completely rebuilding team and you got no old assets, it makes no sense to have Derrick Henry. But I think it's a good time to sell if you are in that case because people like myself, if I'm contending, I am heavily in the market for a guy like Derrick Henry, who's going to be a league winner, dare I say, for like the next 2 years again. Next up, channel favorite Antonio Gibson, BDGE ADP has him as running back 13. I actually have him as running back 10, right behind Cam Akers, right ahead of Najee Harris. My thing is, I think he's similar to Najee Harris in the fact that we know he can catch passes. He's definitely a more raw runner than Najee Harris, but both are in opportunities where they seem to really be the only backs in town. I get that JD McKissick is around there and he's still doing whatever the fuck he's doing, pretending he's a running back, but he's like 120 pounds and gets cracked over the middle. But I do think him being a wide receiver at Memphis, we know the pass catching is there. He flashed his yak ability last season. I don't see how he goes through his entire rookie contract not becoming a pass catcher, kind of like what we saw with Joe Mixon, right? Everybody wants him to become a pass catcher because he could do it in college. He wasn't like insane or like excel beyond belief in college like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire did or a Christian McCaffrey did. He was just very good in that department. Unlike that, Antonio Gibson played wide receiver, and we saw him flash in his rookie year. Along with that, it was his first year as a running back full time. He scored like 11 touchdowns in like maybe 2 games. I don't know, and he scored like 11 touchdowns in no time. The yardage wasn't even that crazy. The offense wasn't good. Last year, they had 3 quarterbacks that combined for 2.5 legs and like 47 brain cells. It wasn't a good situation. Now they get Ryan Fitzpatrick in, notably scored a 48 on the Wonderlic, and last time I checked, had 2 legs. So he's got a leg up on what they had last year. The offensive line is still good. Their defense is still elite. So I do think that him being a fairly young guy, like he was older compared to other rookies from the 2020 class, but I think his position in this offense, his age, his skill set, I think he should be ranked a little bit higher than running back 13 just because the upside, in my opinion, far outweighs the downside. I think the downside is almost what he did last year, maybe minus like 3-4 touchdowns, which wouldn't be fantastic. But if he plays a full season, I think his upside is legit top 5 running back. I know he's also got turf toe. I'm no doctor. I don't know what that really means in the long run. I just hope he's back healthy to start the season, which I have no doubt he will, because the guy's like 6 foot 230 and he runs a 4.3. So if a toe is what takes him out, then I guess I'll have to live with that. Next up, we got Josh Jacobs. He's currently being taken as the running back 19. I have him as my running back 24. I have him a lot lower than consensus, and it isn't necessarily because of Kenyon Drake. It's more so the fact that this entire front office, this coaching staff, everything going on in Las Vegas continues to tell us lies about Josh Jacobs. And for whatever reason, we keep believing it. I'm going to say no more. I'm not standing for this shit any longer. They keep saying this guy's going to catch passes. Guess what he doesn't do? Catch passes, at least at a rate that would help you in fantasy football. They want him to be the guy between the tackles grinder. Then Devontae Booker's dumbass comes out there, steals like 15 carries for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you had Josh Jacobs on your team last season, you would know it was a migraine every single week. Not only was he constantly banged up and taken out of games here and there, but he also was like, I don't know, pissing off Matt Berry by sending like emojis on Instagram. I don't really care about that. But on top of that, he was just extremely touchdown dependent and extremely inconsistent for your team. Sure, you finished like running back 8 and running back 10. But for me, I'd almost prefer, might sound crazy, going back to the one on JD McKissick, knowing what I'm getting in a guy like JD McKissick week after week, like 7, 8 catches, rather than like the median outcome of 23 carries for 78 yards and no touchdowns. And you have to bank on him scoring for him to give you a fantasy relevant day. I also think going back to Kenyon Drake, right? Kenyon Drake is a good pass catcher. And in Miami, he was basically only used for that during the latter part of his time there. So I do think if one of these running backs is going to see an uptick in receiving game, or whoever is going to take the bulk of the receiving game work, I think it's going to be Kenyon Drake. And Kenyon Drake is also good enough between the tackles. Not great, but he's good enough between the tackles to take more carries probably than a guy like Devontae Booker was during the season. I get Josh Jacobs is young. I get the coaches are going to keep lying to you and you're going to keep believing them. But at some point, I got to take a stand for something. And this is where I plant my flag and say, I'm not drafting Josh Jacobs anywhere near his current ADP. And last up, we have Chase Edmonds, currently going running back 29. He's my running back 33. Kind of similar to Josh Jacobs, right? Fantasy players and everybody who's tapped into football wants to believe that Chase Edmonds can be a workhorse running back. Cliff Kingsbury wants him to be a workhorse running back. Everybody says that this guy could be, a top 12 guy if he's given the keys to the castle. My thing is, time and time again, we've seen that he is not that dude. Last year, he had that chance to prove himself. Kenyon Drake wasn't good by any means prior to his injury as well. And prior to week 9, Kenyon Drake got injured, I think week 7, then they had a bye in week 8. Then week 9, he got the starting job for like 1 week, and then Kenyon Drake came back. But from weeks 1 through 7, the guy never had more than 6 carries. He was only being used in the passing game, and Kenyon Drake was extremely inefficient. And to be honest, just like the eye test, he didn't look good. Chase Edmonds did look good, but when it's just shown time and time again that the coaching staff does not want to put the trust in the hands of a 200-pound running back that, when given a workload, can't really hold up. And every time he's been given that workload in the NFL, he hasn't been able to hold up. Like this past year, the game he started, 25 carries, 70 yards. Extremely disappointing. The year prior, when David Johnson went down, 27 carries, 126 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's what we're all hanging on to. But then the following week, 7 carries, 8 yards, and he tore his hamstring. He was out for a while. And also, they traded for Kenyon Drake, further showing they didn't have enough faith in Chase Edmonds to be the guy. I know James Conner isn't good, and I know he was brought in on a very cheap deal, and he could get cut, but this offense isn't one built heavily around the running game. And I would venture to say the best running option on this team and the most valuable one for fantasy, again, is just going to be Kyler Murray. He's going to take goal line carries. He is going to call his own number rather than dumping it off a lot of the time. And I think that only caps his upside. And I think his floor is extremely low too, because every time he's given a workload, he just isn't efficient. So you're really banking on him being a pass catcher and winning goal line work. As long as James Conner's there, I think the goal line work isn't in his favor. And as long as Kyler Murray is scurrying around and they have DeAndre Hopkins, they bring in AJ Green, and they have Christian Kirk, and they just brought in Rondell Moore, who can be a Swiss Army knife and play out of the backfield, I don't see an upside of like 60 receptions, which is what you really want out of a guy. I know running back 29 isn't a heavy price to pay, but a lot of people drafting him are doing so expecting him to be like the starting running back and getting like 15 plus touches a game. I mean, I just don't see it. And even if his contract, expires and he ends up on a new team, do you really think what he showed in Arizona warrants him getting a starting job or a much bigger gig than what he had going for the Cardinals? I really don't think so. So that's all I got. I guess if you want to ask opinions or my rankings on other running backs that I didn't talk about because I only touched on 4 of them, let me know in the comments to tell you where they're at and my opinion on them. Let me know if you think I'm wrong on any of these idiots. I probably am wrong on all of them, and I guess we can see in a few months how wrong I am. But for now, so leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed, thumbs down if you didn't, comment whatever you think, subscribe if you're new, and we'll catch you guys sometime soon. Peace.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper, song, singer, suspended, subpoenaed for misdemeanors. Dreamer, held back asses, Loki still a in. And I still shake a boat squat. Praying for my broke, got city on the come.